Welcome to Tough Conversations with David Wood, where play meets depth. We help teams and high-performing leaders like you to master your tough conversations so you succeed in your career and in your life. When we avoid tough conversations, we stay small. Teams stay disengaged, conflicted, and ultimately end up quitting. When we lean in and master our tough conversations, they become the defining moments that literally shape our careers, our relationships, and our lives. So let's dive in and master your next tough conversation so you can be the leader that you would follow. Let's play. A big thank you to Lula Webstuff for the review. Thank you, David, for your raw truth and your willingness to invite us into deeper, tougher conversations. I appreciate short episodes as they fit into my mini break times while I'm working. A great way to learn and grow. Really appreciate that review. And also a review from AESPI 011. David's extensive experience as a coach and entrepreneur are a gift to the world. I love that most episodes are concise and insightful. Keep them coming. So thanks for your reviews. If you love this episode, you can leave a review at playforreal.com/podcast. And now on with the show.
Like, had I had this, 2 years ago, I would be hopefully even more dynamic than I believe I'm becoming in this position now.
Welcome, everybody. I'm excited about this episode because I've never done this before. I don't think I have ever interviewed one of my clients to find out really how coaching is going, really what they're getting out of coaching, and also, is there something that's not going well and could be better? I have a question for Shannon about something that, like, what I could do better as a coach. So I'll introduce Shannon in a moment, but to give you context, this episode is for any high performer, someone who identifies as someone who gets a lot done in life and is doing well in a number of areas of life. Could be an executive, could be an entrepreneur, could be a waiter, but you identify as a high performer and you've considered coaching or you're considering coaching, like, wait, what would I get out of it? We're going to dive into that. So firstly, welcome, Shannon. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
All right, great. So let's introduce you so people know who you are. Shannon Muir is currently the Vice President of Business and Legal Affairs at Warner Brothers Animation, where she leads a dynamic, hardworking department. Over the past 16 years, Shannon has worked in various large media companies like Disney and Comcast, some names we've all heard of, as well as in the nonprofit world, having taken a break from corporate life to advocate for safer streets for pedestrians and cyclists in Los Angeles. I did not see that coming.
I always like to add that in.
It's great. I'm learning. I should interview all of my clients. I'm learning a lot about you that I didn't know. Shannon is passionate about nutrition, fitness, and wellness, and is a retired triathlete holding a Mat Pilates certification, and she's working on her certification in nutrition coaching and classical Pilates. So, wow, I did not know this about you.
I didn't actually remember all this until I had to write the bio.
Right. I'm curious, what had you say yes to this interview? When I said, come and talk about your coaching experience, what had you say yes, I'm willing to share?
Well, this is the first time I've had an executive coach. I've certainly, just being an athlete, I've been coached before in a physical way, which, of course has an emotional and, intellectual component to it as well. And so when you asked me to do this podcast, I feel like this is something that, and I've told my manager this, like, had I had this, 2 years ago, I would be hopefully even more dynamic than I believe I'm becoming in this position now. So I thought it'd be great for people to understand the value and benefit of coaching.
I love that frame. When I did my first personal growth course, I didn't, no one ever thinks, oh, I should have done this 10 years from now. I should have put this off, right? Sure. Everybody thinks, like I was thinking, if I'd done this when I was 17,
yes,
I'd be a superhuman.
Yes.
Right now. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So interesting, in your world, it seems like it's not a matter of if someone should do coaching, but what's the earliest you can start so that you don't regret.
Absolutely.
let's give people a sense of how did you come to coaching? Did you go to a manager, or did you go onto Google and start looking for a coach, or did someone come to you and offer it? How did you come to coaching?
I came to coaching in feeling like there were dynamics and connections I was making of things I was missing. How come I can't get to the productivity I want to get to? And certainly you call upon the pool of, managers and colleagues and people around you to sort of give you advising. But I thought it would be helpful to sort of get sort of a objective perspective, particularly someone who has experience, across various industries with some of these issues, of just helping me to figure out how to piece everything together, to connect the dots between who I am as a person and how that's affecting how I work and how I lead and how I manage. It just comes a point where you're too close to yourself to be able to identify those things. So I came to that point just feeling a little bit overwhelmed, feeling like, I really don't have to reinvent the wheel. I probably am spending time trying to figure this out when I can, just access some help. And so I brought it, to my manager's attention and asked for some resources.
Wow, you just brought up a whole smorgasbord of really interesting ideas and themes. I like that.
It's no different than if you are really a really good athlete, right? And you can train yourself, but then there comes a point where you're just like, why am I plateauing? Why am I not able to go to the next level? And that's usually when you try to seek, a nutrition coach or a trainer or somebody to help you reach your goals.
So it sounds like for someone wanting a coach, and I really we'll dive in soon to some of the specifics and some of the things that you've been seeing, that you're getting out of the coaching. But for people thinking, how do I make it happen? One option seems like go to HR, go to your manager, let them know what you want to work on, how you want to develop, let them know that this is good for the company as well, is going to develop you. And then if the company's willing to fund it 100%, to me, it's a no-brainer that they're going
Right.
to work on your personal development, on your professional development. They're going to fund that. If they don't, I've heard of companies that might do a cost sharing. And then third case would be self-funding. So I'm curious, do you think people should only get coaching if their companies pay for it, or if they need to pay for it out of their own pocket, if it would still be worthwhile?
It's still worthwhile if you have to pay for it out of pocket. It is you investing in being a better, whatever your title is at your company, but ultimately it's an investment just in you as a person and being better in many areas of your life.
What kind of progress, what are some themes that have been arising for you in your coaching, and what kind of progress are you seeing?
I would say one of the bigger themes that I know you and I talk about a lot is personal management, and being productive, and managing yourself. There seems to be a better way other than potentially just sort of grinding away and burning yourself out and all those pieces of it. What's been important is talking about, how we block out time, how we prioritize time. What are the things that I do maybe the day before I leave, that'll set me up for success the next day? I found it really helpful and important for us to sort of figure that out so that I'm not going home at night or on the weekends anxious, thinking about things I didn't get to do or that are on my plate. So the productivity part has been so key. And I can already, even in the 3 short months that we've been working together, I can already see the difference between when I first started working here.
You mentioned another theme in our pre-interview about managing others.
Yes.
So again, if I can take you back to before you started coaching, what was happening?
The dual role of having to manage yourself in this, type of position and manage others can definitely be stressful. All of it requires time. And so I think before coaching, there was a little bit of overwhelm of like, okay, first of all, how do I have this time to take care of what I need to take care of and take care of the people that I do want to take care of? And then when I do have the time, how do I have those conversations? When do I have those conversations? What things come up? Do I have those conversations with the team? And so I would say since coaching, as we work through various things, I am now able to again, have a little bit more clarity, and also knowing, how to have those conversations, how to instruct people what to do, how to get their feedback, how to build them up into, the leaders I need them to be.
Wow. It's really interesting to me that you're seeing such value in coaching when you are such a self-starter and you are so competent and you're such a solution-oriented person. And what I think I'm getting from what you just said was life is very complex and it's getting more complex. There are more and more, but like 200 years ago, if you wanted to chop down a tree, you'd probably go out and chop down a tree.
Right.
And there wouldn't be much that gets in your way.
Yeah.
But in this day and age, all the pieces of business and career are getting more and more complex, and the pieces of life and how we try and juggle things, and then you put the two together, it's more and more complex. So even high performers who can do it on their own and can do well on their own, and you've proven that, seem to be seeking, I could use some extra RAM in my
Yes.
computer. And maybe 200 years ago, someone like you, coaching wouldn't have been needed at all.
Right. Maybe even 7 or 8 years ago, it'd be like, yeah, well, I'll figure it out, and I would have figured it out. But the business has been disrupted. So change, constantly managing change. We're managing change for ourselves, how we work. We're managing change for the business. That is my life every single day.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. That makes a lot of sense. So now I'm imagining someone in a job that's been the same for 20 years. Nothing really changes. I can see how maybe they don't want to reach
Yes.
out for a coach. This is reminding me, I've been playing a lot of chess recently. And if someone opens in the way that I'm used to, I kind of know what to do.
Yes.
But if someone does an alternative opening that I don't understand, I'm thrown. I'm like,
Yes.
wait, what are you doing? This is
Mhm.
weird. How do I deal with this? And I would love to bring in someone at that point and go, what are they doing? And how do I get to where I want to go with this? Because I haven't seen this before.
Yes. That's the
That makes
perfect analogy. Perfect analogy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something again in the pre-interview that I wrote down. I was really curious about this. You talked about getting in your own way. What's that look like?
I've struggled with delegating.
So a way you can get in your own way is by keeping too much on your own plate, not delegating quickly enough.
Yes. Mhm.
Well, I really appreciate these specific examples. I think because it's one thing to say to people, oh yeah, things are better. But when you talk about the productivity and the less stress and putting the puzzle pieces together and working out how to manage people better and how to delegate, I think that really starts to paint a picture. So I appreciate that. Is there anything else you want to say about maybe how life and or work has improved?
Just having someone unconnected to a situation give me a perspective. And I know it's come up a couple of times where I have a very clear feeling or perspective on something. And you've been able, as the coach, to give me a perspective I hadn't even considered. I don't always know if you can get that from your colleagues or your manager because they're so close to the situation. So I can't stress enough, especially there may be things you don't want to share with your colleagues, you don't want to share with your manager, especially I think if you're independent and a high performer and everyone is kind of impression expectation of you is that you are independent and self-starting. Getting that feedback and that perspective is just so invaluable. I think it's worth the investment, whether via a company or your own personal, sort of investment. I think that what I will say is important in selecting a coach, because I think that's also the bigger issue of like, okay, well, who do I how do I find this person? Having a depth of coaching experience was important to me as well. So just thinking about looking into your coach the way that you would look into any other professional that you're working with. You know, what's their experience? How are our personalities going to align? And I know that I did have the opportunity to select various coaches. And so I really keyed into some of the aspects of your bio. I liked, you know, your depth of experience is, gosh, unmatched in terms of how long you've been doing this and the different ways and different avenues. So you had a very broad background that I think helps a lot of different types of people. It just doesn't have to be executives in corporations. And I liked that because I felt like you could give me not just this narrow executive life perspective, but you could give me perspective based on other experiences you've had.
Thank you. That feels really good to hear that.
You're welcome.
Shannon Muir, VP, Warner Brothers, thanks for coming on the show and really appreciate you.
All right. Thank you.
You've been listening to Tough Conversations with David Wood. Now it's action time. Mastering your tough conversations will have a major impact on your team, your company, and you as a high-performing executive or entrepreneur. If you're ready, request a discovery session with me at playforreal.life so we can transform your team, your company, and you. And if you've enjoyed this episode, I would love you to help me spread this message of tough conversations in a very simple way. Just leave a public review at playforreal.life/podcast. And you may hear me read it out loud and thank you live on a future podcast. Now, let's play.